Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, this is the largest analysis I have ever done in terms of the data, the amount of time I've spent setting it all up, because since the Taylor Swift video that I did that showed her miming, first of all, to Style was the song that we were looking at, and then we looked at other performances because Taylor Swift's fans asked me to look at those where she has an acoustic guitar, where she's playing piano, so I looked at that. And I've received so many messages from fans of Taylor's saying that they're at a show and at one point her in-ear monitoring system didn't work and then she had to stop singing, or she did stop singing, and her vocal didn't come out with the backing, with the instrumentation. So she must have been singing live. Well, what does that mean? And lots of people have sent me lots of different theories, or should I say scenarios, and have asked me, oh, so what's going on? Why did that happen? Why did this happen? So just to quickly let you know what I've done. I've watched an hour and 10 minutes worth of a show from Singapore and another show from Tokyo. The footage was shot by Taylor Swift fans. It's somebody in the audience. And it means that that's 2 hours and 20 minutes of Taylor Swift's show that I have sat through. And once I sat through that, I then ran it all through the pitch monitoring software. So that's another 2 hours and 20 minutes. So 4 hours and 40 minutes before we've even done anything. So then there's synchronizing the shows and, yeah, obviously getting it all organized so that you guys can see it on screen. So yeah, it's been a lot of work, but this is going to be my last video on the topic. So the first thing I want to mention is the band, because they are going to be playing for the whole show. But what I find quite strange is the way that they sound totally different when it's not a song, when it's not a produced track. So what I mean is, have a listen to this. This is the band absolutely going for it, and you might be able to hear the lead guitar in there is really low. I don't think even in the mix. It's just that we can't hear it all very clearly. Have a listen. I mean, you can hear the crashes going on, but then if I now jump forward into the song, it's now like listening to a totally different thing. That didn't sound like the band we were just hearing. So, yeah, this is the same for the whole hour and 10 minutes. So unless it isn't a song that they're performing, then you get to hear the band and it sounds like this, you know, not very upfront at all, quite in the background. So I think that they are certainly playing. The drummer will be playing to a click track, so they'll be doing it all. But how much of them that we're hearing, I think, is really up for debate, because it sounds like this is all just backing track audio. Just they start each song and it's all on the backing track, but then the guys and girls in the band play along, but I don't know, it seems like it's just all just the same thing from one gig to the next. So I'm going to quickly go through the show with each of the songs, and here I've got the counter from Final Cut Pro 10 that I'm using, so you can see how much I'm skipping from one song to the next. So we're going to start off 15 seconds into the show, so let's have a listen. So you can see that we start out perfectly in sync, and Singapore's in the left channel, Tokyo's in the right channel. So now if we move forward by a few minutes, still perfectly in sync. Let me move forward. Still perfectly in sync. Let's move forward. Still perfectly in sync. Let's move forward. You're going to get bored of me saying that. Okay, we've got a bit of silence here. Let's get forward. Oh, now we have acoustic guitar. So let me get into this. And we're still perfectly in sync. So even the more stripped back acoustic song was in sync. Still in sync as we moved forward through that. Still perfectly in sync. Still perfectly in sync. Let's jump into another song. I mean, this is still perfectly in sync, but it sounds like more of a band sound. Let's move forward. Still perfectly in sync there. Still perfectly in sync. Still perfectly in sync. And the cinematic bit is still in sync. And this is the kind of thing that when I listen out to that sound of, it's almost like a synth, stabs on the keys that are coming in. It is so exact that, for me, that is just a backing track. And I think it's safe to say that, nothing's going out of sync. So the argument for every song being backing track related is very strong. Still in sync here. Still in sync. Still in sync. Still in sync. Still in sync. Let's move forward. Still in sync. Still in sync. And just to clarify what's going on here, the songs are the same version of the song. Night after night, it's just being played back. And where are we? Oh, almost at the end now. 1 minute and 9 seconds. So there we go. We've had a quick skip through these two shows, and every song that we've gone to has been exactly the same as the other show. And I know that people that are in bands that play live, well, they'll know that with a drummer even playing to a click, you'll hear things going out of sync probably after a few bars, let alone an hour and 9 minutes of not having missed anything. I want to mention, when people say about Taylor Swift losing her in-ear monitors and, she's obviously panicking and somebody has to run on stage to give her, a new in-ear monitor pack. When they start a song, that is it. The song is going to be the song. As we've seen, it's going to be identical for the next 4 or 5 minutes. So if there's a problem, you've got to deal with that because the song is going to keep going no matter what. The band aren't going to stop playing because the track has started. The only way that they could stop is by literally pressing stop and everything just, as if you were listening to an MP3 player and you've just paused it. So it would sound really dodgy if they did that. Just so you have an appreciation of the data that we're going to look at, I always mention about ambient noise, where people will be singing along or screaming and cheering and other things that are going on that get in the way of us hearing Taylor Swift's voice clearly. Now, this is nothing to do with the original audio file being edited. This is just the way that it works. Depending where you are in the stadium, you might hear her voice quite clearly. Sometimes you won't hear her voice quite clearly. So it's not a case of editing. It just happens to be what it sounded like on this person's phone at the venue. That's just the way it works. So that's the data that we've got to work with. And I'm just going to give you a quick example of what that means and why, when somebody said, oh, you're only focusing on the bits that match up, why aren't you looking at the bits that don't match up? Because underneath all of the noise is an original audio file, and that's always going to be playing the same thing. All the other noise on top of it, the lines going all over the place, that's the ambient noise. And it also can be the cavernous space, the acoustic space of these huge venues adds a lot of reverb to the sound, reverberations of the sound waves. So it means that it can kind of dilute the sound. So another reason for you not hearing her voice very clearly on the videos. So I have recorded a melody and put it through the pitch monitoring software so we can see it on screen, and I have auto-tuned it. So you'll be able to use this as a reference point for the video later on. Let's have a listen. So this is auto-tuned, so you will see it being over these lines. But you will also see it being slightly above and below these lines, because auto-tune can do this now. And then for held notes, it really does stick it onto those lines. Now, when we bring on another version of this audio with me simulating people talking and crowd noise and ambient noise that you get that goes on at gigs all the time, and especially when people are closer to their phone than obviously the person singing or the speakers, you get this kind of thing. And have a look. Oh wow, I'm so happy to be here. So, as soon as anything else comes into the mix, you can say, well, it's plotted it all over the place. Of course it has, because the pitch monitoring software is hearing something different. But we'll listen on for a bit longer, picking up the audio. For other times, they're just cheering. And, I mean, there, another tiny bit here that came through. So let me move that over. And, of course, we know that this is going to match up once we kind of get it all calibrated. And there it is. So this little section here lined up. Now, the other huge thing about this that you have to look out for are lines completing lines. So what I mean by that is if I get rid of one version, and so this is now we're looking at the ambient noise, I'm going to bring on the original audio file and take a look at how this part up here is completing the other line, to the 100th of a second. And this line is coming out of this line to the 100th of a second, and these lines are going into this line. So you get that kind of thing. Even though we've got minimal data here, because people were shouting and screaming and getting in the way, when we bring on the audio file, you can see how it matches up perfectly. So we're going to get into that starting at the beginning of the show, and we have Singapore, which is going to be on the right-hand side, and Tokyo is going to be on the left. This is the first song, which is called Cruel Summer. So have a listen to this. And by the way, we're not listening to one performance and then we're going to listen to the other one. These are both performances being played back at the same time.
Play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You and me, it's something like this. It's something like calling and my heart breaks. That's so sad, we paint the top blue. But it won't stop you away. It won't stop you.
So as you can hear, it is identical. And I mean, if I kind of run it forward a little bit, I mean, I will have to for this video not to literally be probably over an hour and 10 minutes because of all the analysis. But as we run forward, have a listen.
I'm always waiting for you to be waiting below. Devils roll their dice, angels roll their eyes. It doesn't kill me, makes me want you more. And it's you, the shape of your body is you.
So this is, yeah, the same song, still perfectly in sync with itself. The other thing that I want to point out is that we will get a drop of signal relatively regularly, because with the isolating process you can choose to either have vocals or backing vocals, and with the amount of ambient noise going on, the more offensive bits of shouting and talking and screaming, it has taken that out. So we can kind of zero in on Taylor's voice a little bit more. I mean, have a look at this just as we're passing through. This kind of thing being directly over the B4 and directly over the B4 here. Again, it looks similar, but it's not something that I'm going to drag over the top of itself. Let's have a listen. And here we have our first point of interest. I will say that on this show, this is the most heavily auto-tune relied upon show that I have ever seen. And I've seen a lot of shows. I've done a lot of analysis videos. And the amount that they are relying on auto-tune, I think, is just too much. Because you get this kind of thing. Have a listen. With you. It's snapping Taylor's voice to the wrong note. When you trust your vocals to technology, it can go wrong. And spoiler alert, it goes wrong a lot. So this is why we're seeing, things being kind of straight over the top of the lines, as in the example that I gave earlier, because they're just massively relying on technology here to hit the notes. And this is why you'll see this kind of thing all the time, being over these lines. And, when it does get thrown off, as from my example in the beginning, it's because we've got other noises that the pitch monitoring software is picking up. But I'm not going to say that this is the first song. I'm not going to say the first song is mimed. What I am going to say is that it just sounds so similar. And we know, actually, that it can't be exactly the same audio, at least in that section where the auto-tune went to the wrong note. So we know that at least the auto-tune has shown that it is a vocal that is being produced on that night. Unfortunately, we're not getting to hear it because it's going through auto-tune, and then we hear the result of auto-tune, not what Taylor was actually doing and singing into that microphone. So I'm just going to skip forward to the next song, which is called The Man. So we'll have a listen to this.
I guess what I'm trying to say is you're making me feel like I'm the man. I would be complex. I would be cool. They say I played the field before I found someone to commit to.
And, I mean, you can tell, again, straight away that we are perfectly synchronized here with Taylor's voice. So, I mean, ultimately what's happening is they've got every song on a backing track, and Taylor can talk for as long as she wants to, but as soon as the song starts, that is it. That will be the song until the end of the song. There's going to be no extemporization. There's going to be, nothing spontaneous, that's going to happen during the song. It is going to be 3 or 4 minutes of the same thing. I can move it anywhere. And it's going to be perfectly in time with another night's performance.
This is our race. We make the rules. And there's a dazzling haze, a serious way about you, dear. Have I known you 20 seconds or 20 years?
Again, it's difficult to decipher with the auto-tune, but I think these are different vocals from right to left. There's tiny differences that I can hear on the left-hand side. Let me just tell you what, we'll skip forward. But this is the thing, because it's the same backing track for every show, the timing is going to be identical. And going back to the last video I did where people say that she's lip-syncing the whole show, I don't think that's the case. I think she is providing a live vocal, but we're just not hearing it because it's gone through auto-tune, and then we're hearing the result. And auto-tune has been programmed to do the same thing for every show.
I've got 100 thrown out speeches I almost said to you. Easy let come, easy let go.
Oh, and I just want to reference quickly the last video I did on Carpenter, where I said that she was the best of the best for hitting pitches. So in that video, she hit, 2, sometimes 3 lines in a row, which is just, crazy accurate. But also she hit the same line, I think, twice. When I say line, I mean on the pitch monitoring software. So the same pitch, the same note over the top of the line from 1971 to then 1974. Those were the 2 performances. So when you're looking at that as a guide, that's the best probably that you're ever going to see. Certainly the best that I've seen looking at a voice from this perspective of pitch. So I did say on that, when you see somebody hitting 3, 4, 5 lines in a row, it becomes suspicious. If you start seeing them hitting lines 10, 20, 40, 50 times over the course of a few songs, then it's calibrated. So just to point out what we're looking at here when we're kind of over lines for a lot of the time.
I jumped from the train, I ride up on you, I never grew up, it's getting so...
I mean, just as an example here, when I take that back just a little bit, and I've taken, because this is an hour and 10 minutes, of course, just moving it a tiny amount, it goes miles back. But if we're just looking at the lines, when we're saying, right, okay, we've hit a line here, we've hit a line here, we hit the line here, we hit the line here. So, and in the other performance, we hit the line there. So it's kind of 4 times in this tiny little section. And like I said, 2 to 3 is kind of the best of the best. Oh, and another one here. So we've got, 5, 6. And then we went a little bit flat here. And again, spot on the line here, spot on the line here. So, and when we went off, again, you've got to not only take the ambient noise into consideration, but the fact that auto-tune is programmed to not just be on these lines all the time, even though it's just still on the lines way too much. Not that I want to give people ideas about how much it should be on the lines when you're copying a great vocal or a great voice.
In the grave, who could ever leave me, darling? But who could stay?
Hey, I mean, there you go. There's the problem with relying on auto-tune so much. I don't know whether you heard that in the right-hand channel. Have a listen. There you go. Auto-tune is snapping her voice to the wrong note, and it's getting a little bit confused as to where it should be.
Who could stay?
Stay. You get that little wobble, which isn't a vocal technique. You would not do that, especially considering on the other performance, she's just holding that note straight and the auto-tune's absolutely grabbed it. So what's happening is on the other performance in the right-hand channel, yeah, she's just drifting a bit too sharp of the note and it's thinking she wants the other note, but she definitely doesn't.
Dark side, I search for your dark side.
And we had a variation there in the left-hand channel. I think that this is, again, because the auto-tune has malfunctioned, it's got to be a live vocal that she's supplying. Obviously, we're not hearing what it is, but the result of it is being moved incorrectly. But it's great because you can see how it has been programmed from one show to the next. G3 on the line, D4 on the line, G3 on the line, D4 on the line, B3 on the line, B3 on the line. Again, so now we've got something, by the way, that Karen Carpenter couldn't achieve, being the best of the best. She never hit 3 lines like this. I've never seen it in the analysis videos that I've done on her voice, where she's hit 3 lines at different shows, twice in a row, but 3 kind of lines in a row. It's just not the way that, vocal cords work. So, I mean, this is all the evidence you need to know that it is auto-tuned, even though you can hear it. Well, I can hear it. I know some people can't hear it, but to me, this is very obvious. Again, I don't have an answer for this. I know people might want to ask me questions. The reason I'm doing this video is that I'm not going to be answering any more questions. I don't know why they have used auto-tune this severely.
Who can stay? Who can stay? Who can stay? You can stay.
There we go. A couple of things to note there. Listen how the timing was different here. You see how she actually came in a little bit earlier. The left channel came in a little bit earlier, I think. And I think we had a little bit of auto-tune. That one was straight. That one was fine. Just listen to this.
You can
stay. It is trying to take it down. So on the pitch monitoring software here, you can see the point at which it's trying to adjust her voice again. Is this? I think we're still hearing 2 performances here. Let me move it forward.
Your girlfriend, she's upset. She's going off about something that you said. She doesn't get your humor like I do.
Again, live vocal here, I would say, because of the differences, slightly out of sync. Oh, that was a big one for the auto-tune there. Let me just take this back. No, it actually went up here and then down here. Let me just take a look at this. Have a listen. We'll listen to it in slow motion so you can pick it out. Nah, I do. So it's actually snapped it to 3 notes. It's tried to go up to the A sharp 3. It's then gone back down to the A3, and then it's gone down to the G sharp 3. So the auto-tune there, it should have just been nah. It should have just been 1 note. I'm sure of that. Let me listen to the other one just for confirmation.
About something that you said, she doesn't get your humor like I do.
Yeah, it's just 1 note. It should be. Auto-tune's turned that into 3. Now, why has it done that? Because it means that Taylor's pitch covered 3 semitones rather than nah. She's gone nah, it's actually 4 semitones. Now, you might have to bear with me because I want to try and see in the background why this has happened, because I was going to say she's going to be doing something here. When I say doing something, I mean she's going to be moving. She's going to be having impact or running or dancing or doing something because her voice has covered too much pitch. She's obviously unable to hold that note. Okay. Look at she's walking briskly. So it's amazing, just a little bit of movement like that. And again, it might be the case that she's a little bit more out of breath. So when you don't have that kind of accuracy on the note. That's again the problem with using auto-tune.
Wondering if you were ever coming around, or thinking you was faded.
Okay, actually one of these is a little bit dim on the left-hand side. Let me just bring that up a little bit. So, I mean, even looking at this, you see this kind of thing where you've got this notch on the D4 and this notch on the D4. I mean, it looks very similar. I'm just going to move it across a little bit, and we will bring it down a little bit as well. Now, the thing is, it is going to be at exactly the same point. So, I mean, because of the angle of the line as well, this is the closest that we've been to maybe having something that, I mean, there's no denying that happens at the same 100th of a second, this notch on the D4. There's no denying that. But whether that indicates that it's a lip-synced part that we've got to now, and it might be the case that there are bits within songs that she might be singing live and then it's going through auto-tune, but then other bits that are on the backing track that isn't the live vocal, and it might just dip in and out. So, yeah, that would be an explanation for this, something that just seems to happen to the 100th of a second, which shouldn't. That should not be in exactly the same place. Move it forward to the next. I actually want to hear going into this song.
Knew he was a killer, first time that I saw him. Wondered how many girls he had loved and let haunted. But if he's a ghost, I can be your phantom.
Again, just perfectly in sync here.
You should see the things we do, baby.
I mean, we are kind of getting some echoes here. Let me just kind of bring this over here. I mean, I'm looking at this kind of section here, and I'm not sure until we bring it a little bit closer, get it matched for pitch and then for timing. And oh, hang on, let me just do something here. This peak, same 100th of a second as this peak, maybe a millisecond earlier, and this trough exactly the same point here. So we've got, again with ambient noise, we've got reasons why this wouldn't match up, but the timing of it is suspicious. But what is even more suspicious is, and the reason that I'm this close in, is down here. So have a look at this line. When I get rid of one, and now bring on the other one, look at the way that it kind of morphs into that. The line is absolutely spot on from going from one to the next. And like I've said before, a line going into another line to the 100th of a second shouldn't be happening. Everything is trying to throw this off from happening. So to see this tiny detail here, it's almost like the smaller this detail, the more profound it is, because of the fact that it's going straight into it when you go from one into the next. So for me, I mean, that's the first part where I'd say that is pretty conclusive for it actually being an audio file that we are hearing, cutting through everything else, because that timing is absolutely ridiculous.
In the middle of the night.
And I'm just going to jump into that. And this would make sense to have a note of that height on a backing track. Let's see if we can move this. You can say that this is sharing some similarities between this line underneath, the kind of shape that we have. When we move it up, I mean, it's not perfect, but the line here actually comes out of the other line, and we are really close here. Let me have a look. Like that. I'm just trying to see this one, because this line here actually goes into the other one, and again, ambient noise is trying to throw this off. Even though this only got picked up a little bit, the way that the lines move look really similar. If you were to kind of take this, and you can imagine how the lines would go to complete each other. So yeah, again, I'd say that is probably, because it's a high note as well, there's a lot of reason to have that on the backing track, especially kind of night after night, doing so many shows.
'Cause I like it, it's for the best. My reputation's never been more so. You must like me for me.
I'm trying to hear any difference in the phrasing of what she's saying here, but I can't spot any.
You can't make any promise.
Let me just take this back a little bit, because when it sounds this similar... Okay, right, I'm going to grab that and I'm going to move this over. Right, just to tell you what I'm looking at here. So you see this little hook that we have here? We have exactly the same hook over here. And again, we've got ambient noise. It's trying to throw all of this off. But if I just bring in the other lines. Yeah, right, here we go. So I've just seen at the bottom here, take a look at this. We've got this line that's actually going into the bottom of the other line. So that's kind of one case there. You can say that this notch here is happening at exactly the same 100th of a second as the other performance. Let me see what else we've got. You could say that this line here is completing the other lines, because there's actually a gap there until I bring in the other performance. It then, yeah, matches that up. This part down here, again, getting thrown off because of the ambient noise, and this is why none of this should match up. But I'm just going to see if that is a line. I think it is. Oh, let me just check. Yes, it is. Right, so here, this is the same line on both performances, because when I get rid of it, you can see it's still there. And when I bring in the other one fully, there it is. So, yeah, there you go. Even though it's thrown off by ambient noise, the timing is identical from one line going into another line. Like I've already said, when you start seeing that, it's just the same audio file just coming through. And maybe you can do this when you're listening to this. Try and hear any difference in phrasing in the vocal. Even though the auto-tune is going to make it sound exactly the same, it's trying to hear a difference in like the breathing or the words, just to see if that previous bit was just a little section that was the same audio file, or whether it's going to be more.
Is it cool that I said all? Is it too soon to do this yet? 'Cause I know I said that. Isn't it, isn't it, isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it, isn't it, isn't it? Isn't it delicate? Third floor on the west side, me and you. Get some for a mansion with a view to the girls that won't touch you like I do. All night, your hands up in my hair, echoes of your footsteps on the stairs. Stay here, honey, I don't wanna share. 'Cause I like you, so you're the best. My reputation's ever.
Okay, yeah, this all sounds really, really similar. So, just having a little look through. Okay, well, here's, another thing that, from looking at these lines for so long, the C4, this little notch that we get, just sharp of that line here, another notch, just sharp of that line. So again, that's something that kind of really does stick out. I want to see if, the data got kind of thrown off here. I'm just seeing if we kind of move this over, whether those lines will correlate with each other. Yes, they do. Okay, right. Have I actually got that? I got it exactly right first time. So here, like I said, the data kind of got thrown off here, but when you bring on the other performance, you can see how it is completing that line. So the more reliable data was actually this version. So before it got thrown off by ambient noise, Going back to the other version, you can see that line then suddenly appears. But again, we're talking about hundredths of a second here, and these lines here and here going over the top of each other. So yeah, again, even when the data gets a little bit thrown off, the second line is saying, oh no, this is where the audio file is. That's where the line should be. So yeah, it's great because you will just get it kind of poking its head through saying, oh, this is the audio file, by the way, and then it'll go away kind of hiding behind ambient noise. Oh, okay, right. So this is talking. It sounds like within the context of a song.
Look what you made me do. Look what you made me do. Look what you just made me do. Look what you just made me do. Look what you made me do.
And it seems like, yeah, as soon as that talking's done, then we're kind of back to perfectly synchronized.
Look what you just made me do. Look what you just made me do. Look what you made me do. Look what you made me do.
Okay, I might skip forward from here.
All I can say is every word's enchanting to me. You.
I mean, unfortunately, that's going to happen. The auto-tune is just going to make it sound quite robotic.
Your eyes whispered, have we met?
Wow, we had a malfunction there. I don't know which one it was.
Your eyes whispered, have we met?
Here we go. So again, auto-tune snapped her voice to the wrong note. Let's listen.
Your eyes whispered, have we
Have we met? It should be na 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 na, and it's going na 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 na. So that's not the melody. That's not that's na na. That's major scale stuff. You know, that's absolutely basic. So going na na, it's like a semitone above your root note. But I mean, all joking aside, I know that I'm laughing because it does sound a bit funny, because you would never go to that note in the context of that melody because it just sounds weird. So anyways, listen on.
Your eyes whispered, have we met? Across the room, your silhouette starts to make its way to me.
I can't unhear that now.
The playful conversation starts. Counter all your quick remarks like passing notes in secrecy.
I'm just having a quick listen to this again in the right channel.
Counter all your quick remarks like passing notes in secrecy.
See, so the auto-tune there has taken what would have been, again, this should be a major scale, so we should be na major third, 1 2 3. When you take the major third, make it into a minor third, it goes na na. That's the difference between those two. One of them is the major scale, one of them is the minor scale. They're totally different. So when we have this malfunction, and you can quite clearly hear it should be na.
Passing notes in secrecy.
See, it should end there. It shouldn't go see. Listen to this. You. It doesn't know where it's supposed to be going.
On a history book page.
Perfectly synchronized again here.
It was the end of a decade.
I say here, yeah, it's been for the whole show, but you know, hearing the difference between the vocals.
But the start of an age.
Yeah, so this sounds identical as well. It sounds like we have another voice. Na 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 na. Okay, right now. Here we have another voice that is underneath. I'm going to bring in the other vocal so that you can hear what I mean. The first vocal starts on the same line, so I'm wondering if Taylor, to save her voice, has her vocal, the lead vocal, on a backing track, and for the chorus here, she's going na 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 na. So she's staying in this low point rather than going higher where she normally would. Obviously, if you're singing higher, it's going to place more stress on your voice. But anyway, I'm just going to let this play on. Right, okay, here we go. There was a high note if she's not singing it, and we have lines. Okay, if she's not singing that, and that was her voice doing the lower line, we should be able to get something going here. Right, where are we? Okay, so this have to be... Okay, I think I've just... I don't know whether you saw that. I think I've just dragged it exactly, or as close as we can. Yeah, I didn't quite go far enough. And the only reason that I know that is because down here, this line is completing the other line. So, hang on, let me get rid of that. I mean, here at the top as well, I might have to move it down so you guys can see. Like, I'm looking at here, you've got this kind of incline in pitch, and then it levels out. We've even got a little hook over the top there, if I make it a little bit brighter. This little hook that happens at the end. So this is overlapping, absolutely no doubt about that. Well, I don't really need to do much here. Oh, and look at this little here. This little bit here, this little bit of yellow, it is tiny. It's a little hook over the top. Look at this line and look at this line. So this bit, when I bring in the other vocal, look at the way that the hook is perfectly where the hook is in the other performance. And this little hook here is finishing the line. The timing is absolutely perfect. And of course, up at the top, we've got two lines going over the top of each other. And that means it's the same audio file. So when I said that it sounded like it was her voice singing the lower line, we know that this higher vocal is an audio file. It's the same audio file being repeated from one show to another show.
And they gave us our trophies, and we held them for our time.
Now, either that's kind of ambient noise getting in the way, but it sounded like Taylor didn't quite make it to that.
They gave us our trophies, and we held them for our time.
So, yeah, I think there's a bit of a difference there. So I'm going to say that that was her actually singing that.
The cynics were outraged.
That sounded different as well. So it might actually be the case that we are looking at points of the vocal coming in and out on the backing track. So, I mean, again, that's just a way of, not having to sing the main line, for example, like that high note that was kind of a perfect match. It means that you don't have to worry about kind of stressing your voice, but you then might have one note that you do hit. And I think that's the case here. There. Oh, this must be a song that I've analysed before, because this happened. This must be the hour and 10 minutes of this person recording. This must have been one of the audio files that I analysed in a previous analysis video, because I remember this happening. So yeah, it just so happens that this is the same data, and it shows that that she was providing that vocal. When I went back here and we matched up the lines, it was the same. These little parts fit perfectly into this, and this overlaps this. I actually kind of want to know if this is an acoustic guitar performance. It is! Here we go. So, people asked me before, oh, why can't you check out her playing her acoustic guitar? So even this song has her lead vocal on the backing track. So, I mean, and the fact that it all matches up perfectly, this is not a song that they play just with, you know, natural tempo and feeling it. This is a backing track as well, because it's absolutely perfectly matched. So there you go. Yeah, I was just wondering whether that is one of the songs that, you know, Taylor Swift's fans said, oh, you've got to look at her playing acoustic guitar because that was all fully live. And I did look at it. And here we go. We've got another. This is a different one. Yeah, we've moved on since the last one. This is a different line now. This sounds like she's singing the lower harmony. Yeah, I mean, for me, because it sounds like she's starting that phrase and just stays there, I would say that that's her voice. But of course, you could argue, oh, that's somebody doing a backing vocal, which, you know, it could be. So we can't say it's conclusively her voice. But what we can say is that there's, in this song, a lead vocal on the backing track. So if there were an opportunity to do the lower harmony line, this would be a song where she could do that.
He's like, I still love you here. I'm like, I mean, this is exhausting. You know, we're never getting back together.
Yay! So here, again, so this talking bit obviously is different for every show because you can hear how her voice goes out of sync.
He's like, I still love you here. I'm like, I mean, this is exhausting.
I mean, it's so obvious when something different happens from one night to the next.
I'm really gonna miss you picking fights and me falling more, screaming that I'm right. And you hide away and find your peace of mind with some indie record that's much cooler than mine.
Yeah, the pitch is different when she's saying that. So yeah, she's definitely kind of coming in for that. So, in conclusion, what do we have? We have every song that we've looked at is exactly the same. We've got to accept that what's going on is backing tracks are just waiting to go. So they've got every backing track of every song. As soon as Taylor's stopped her talking, they press play, the backing starts up. The band will be playing as well. How much that we hear of the band, I don't know. Some shows it might be more prevalent than others, but in these two shows, it's certainly just the sound of the backing track that we hear. What else do we have? We have lead vocals on the backing track. So there are sections that she isn't singing, but it sounds like she is singing. And we've got just auto-tune. Looking at it in this kind of detail, I could probably dive into this hour and 10 minutes even more and find more little glitches and potential errors with auto-tune and other bits that might match up or might be similar, you know. But again, this is the last video that I'm going to do on this because, you know, I spent a hell of a long time looking at this particular show, and you know, I'm just showing you what it is, and it is what it is. And however you feel about that is up to you, but I'm just pointing out what's going on in the show, and it's quite literally that simple. So anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. As always, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys at the next one. Rock!